There's an interesting thing I came across some time ago. I think it was in one of Tim Harford's books, who's a guy I did the radio thing with, but he's a sort of statistician and rationalist. Yeah, it's really amazing, isn't it? And then this goes against, I suppose, perhaps the overwhelming correctness of meeting people in person compared to trying to analyse them online. He said that hiring success goes up significantly when companies emphasise CVs and resumes and references and so on, and de-emphasise one-to-one meetings.
Right.
But almost everyone in every department, whether it be public sector, private sector, whatever, flatters themselves that they're really good at meeting people and knowing whether they're going to be right for the job. But actually, they're almost always wrong.
Okay.
They allow prejudice to guide their decisions. So you meet somebody and you think, oh,
they're like me.
They're like me, or they're like somebody I already know and like. And
well, the biggest predictor is whether they look like you. You tend to favour people.
Right?
You even tend to favour people if they have your birthday.
I knew I didn't like you.
There we go. But I mean, that's true, like
you're okay.
Any similarity.
Birthday.
Even there's research that shows that if you have the same birthday, you naturally favour them. It's not to do with some
my
sort of.
best friend and best man is born the day before me.
Right. Well, so this bears it out, doesn't it?
So that poses a very interesting question in my mind, which is those of us who oppose this obsession with inequality in that way, or discrimination, or whatever, prejudice, bigotry, whatever, right? A misrepresentation of it. How do we deal with the fact that human beings actually do think that way to some extent?
What you don't do is try and get into people's minds and change their secret thoughts and and monitor their thoughts, which is what is happening now.
But look at how you've answered my question. You've answered my question by answering a different question, right?
It's a negative. It's much
well,
easier.
because I can't think of the right answer.
I know. That's exactly right. So those of us who, while accepting, of course, that people do discriminate, etc., but think too much has been made of this issue. It's been blown out of all proportion. You know, I feel that in this country people are being told that they're the most racist they've ever been, that we live in the most racist country ever, when, having lived in many other parts of the world, I know that's bollocks, right? Yeah. So those of us who oppose this myth-making, how do we also then incorporate what Andrew is saying, which is that people do favour people who are like them?
Can I suggest an answer?
Yeah,
I actually do have an answer, and the answer is social liberalism. It's in you educate people not to care about skin colour, gender, sexuality, and all the rest of it. Yeah. And the problem is that the current social justice movement is doing the exact opposite, and is going to exacerbate the problem. Yeah. So I think that the answer is social liberalism.
But
it's teaching people not to care.
It's colour blindness is
the really prickly thing here. The third rail in that is, if you continue with social liberalism and you're colourblind and all the rest of it, and then people are able to analyse success and failure and identify group differences, how will you explain that?
Because people are different.
If it's not caused by institutional racism or sexism or homophobia, what is it caused by?
Well, possibly biology, possibly. I mean, if you take, for instance, the obvious example
that then is where
and then you have to admit people are different.
Yeah, but the obvious example is the most egalitarian societies in terms of gender, as we know. I mean, this has been cited a lot, but it's the most obvious example. The Scandinavian countries.
Yeah.
When people have the choice,
like to do different things.
They do different things. Women become more, and men become more different. The more choice they have, the more freedom they have. So maybe it's just worth recognising that fact. I don't know.
But that's the scariest thing to them, is we're different.
But I'm not I'm not someone who is gender conforming.
Because that's what progress means to a lot. This is where I think I would imagine from a religious perspective, most anxiety is felt, is that what is regarded as progress now, so sociologically, is essentially moving almost to transhumanism, like eliminating anything that might qualify as human nature.
That is an anxiety.
And I think that's what it is. Progress went to a certain stage, maybe, the civil rights movement, whatever, everyone has equal rights, but a certain degree of freedom of association and so on as well. But no, we have to move beyond that. We have to eliminate the human.
See, that's not my understanding of transhumanism. Is the idea of literally turning us into robots, literally curing death. Yeah, implanting us with,
and that is terrifying.
And that
actually,
my sort of religious fundamentalism absolutely kicks.
I'm with you on that. I hate that.
I agree with that. But equally, look at our phones. I mean, we are plugged into them now. If your phone was part of your arm, it wouldn't be any different to what it is now, would it? Really?
Yeah, well, I'm trying not to. I'm keeping my phone out my bedroom and all that kind of stuff.
It is,
and you're right to do that too. Because I do think social media actually rewires your brain.
But it is still a servant. I think.
Is it? Yeah, that's a very good question, Giles.